Welcome to the podcast where relationships, confidence, and determination all converge into an amazing, heartfelt experience. This is Speaking from the Heart.
Welcome back to episode number 180 of Speaking from the Heart. Today we have Megan Murphy joining us, and Megan is a professional actress in her 30s, currently living in southeastern Alabama. She also lived in New York City for 6 years. She graduated with a bachelor's degree in theater from Troy University in 2008, and after graduating, she worked at the Jewish Ensemble Theater near Detroit, and then she worked at the Flat Rock Playhouse in North Carolina. She then moved to New York City, and while living there, she worked in television, film, and off-Broadway and off-Broadway theater. In 2023, Megan created her own YouTube show called the Aunt Nae Nae Show, which is a variety show for kids that includes songs, stories, jokes, educational content, and more. Megan's hobbies and interests include science fiction, fashion, reading, and traveling. Now, I have to say, this is a multi-talented person that we have on today's show for a variety of reasons. A, I think about the theater background that she has, which we dive into quite a lot in today's episode. But B, having something like the Aunt Nae Nae Show, something that is educational in nature, especially on a YouTube channel, is really quite interesting for a lot of reasons. Educational content, especially for children, is so desperately needed that teaches fundamental skills. And I think that even with what she has done in her life, she has shown that she has so many different types of possibilities. And Megan even describes some of those today. I think this is really getting into an opportunity for us to really practice not only our impromptu speaking, our ability to act for that matter in Megan's case, but I think that you learn a lot about yourself and others, even if you think that in a different period of time that you need to take care of yourself. You can take care of others at the same time too, through all the gifts that you have available. And I think those opportunities, those ways in which we can inspire others, is ultimately how we're able to find the best versions of ourselves. And we'll learn more about that in today's episode. But with that, let's go to the episode. All right, we're here with Megan Murphy. Megan, thanks for sharing your heart with us today.
Thank you for having me on the show, Josh. I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad that you are here too, Megan. I have really been excited to have you on the show because you have a very unique background, unlike any other guests I've had thus far. And I've already let the listeners know a little bit about that unique background. But I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about your acting career, because you have been and you still are a professional actress. And I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what got you into theater and what has taken you on this journey to where you are now.
Well, I had always loved singing and performing, like play and pretend, making little plays in front of my parents when I was little. My mom said I started singing as soon as I learned to talk. And so I had always loved having an audience. When I got to high school, I wanted to join the high school theater group. And the first play I did was in the 10th grade. I was a chorus member in Hello Dolly. And I did that for the 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. And then I didn't know what I wanted to major in college at first. So I went to a junior college for the first 2 years. And then I thought one day, this is not just an extracurricular activity anymore. This is what I want to do with my life. And so I decided to audition for a theater scholarship at a college called Troy University here in Alabama. And I got the scholarship. And so I got a bachelor's degree in theater. And then after college, I worked a couple of odd jobs. And then in 2012, I moved to New York City to pursue acting professionally. And I had high hopes when I got there. I was like, I'm going to be on Broadway within a year. But that didn't happen, of course. I kept going to audition after audition after audition. And most of the time, you get rejected because that's just the way the business works, especially in New York City. But I did get to join an off-Broadway sketch comedy troupe, and we performed off-Broadway sketch comedy shows every 3 or 4 months. I did that for several years, and I got to do some children's plays while I was there. I was in Cinderella and The Wizard of Oz. I played the gatekeeper of the Emerald City, like the one in the movie who's like, "What do you want?
Yes,
I
yes.
can't see you now."
I remember that part of it for sure.
That was fun. And I also became a member of both actors' unions, SAG-AFTRA and Actors Equity Association. And I had a great time in New York City. Oh, I also worked as a background extra on lots of TV shows and movies that filmed in New York. I worked on Law and Order SVU, Boardwalk Empire, Blue Bloods, The Good Wife, Billions. I worked on Avengers Infinity War one day.
Are you serious?
As an extra.
Now
That's just an extra.
I have to say, for
But
my listeners, it is something that is really important that I have to disclose. I am a Captain America fan. Some people that have
oh
known
my
me for a very long
God.
time. So, Megan, I have to say, I have an affinity for Infinity Wars and even like
Oh,
the Avengers. So, I love that. Even if you were an extra, that's awesome just to be part of the set.
none of the main actors in the movie were there on the set.
Hmm.
It was all CGI. They told us it was supposed to be Doctor Strange, but it was just like a cape on the end of a crane with a little tennis ball on it, and they were going to add in Doctor Strange, Benedict Cumberbatch later. So that was a little disappointing, but it was still fun because what they had us do was we were running away from Thanos's henchmen or whatever they are, the evil guys in the movie.
Yes.
We were running away from the evil aliens. And so it was pretty fun.
I do remember those parts because they did film some of those things on location. So I know that there are a couple areas within even
There was a
Infinity
couple
War.
of scenes
Yeah.
in New York. I think it was Washington Square Park.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
It's a scene in the beginning of the movie with Spider-Man and Doctor Strange and
The Hulk. Yeah. Bruce Banner.
yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's awesome, Megan. I have to even stop you there and just even ask you this. Did you ever think that you'd be working on some hit TV series, even movies for that matter, when you started to act? I'm imagining that that was
Mm-mm.
always a dream, but did you ever think that would come to reality?
No, like I remember when I got my first paid acting gig, which was a job as a background extra on, I can't remember the name of the show now, but the scene took place in World War II, and I was dressed in like 1945 attire, and they did my hair like in victory rolls. That was exciting when I had other people do my hair and makeup for me.
Well, even then, to be treated that way, to be able to say, "Oh, well, look at me, I'm being all dolled up." I've had some people, even recently, one of my previous guests, Regina, had talked about her experiences being a CGI visual effects person for the movie Avatar. And I've actually had another guest a number of months ago who was on that worked on Francis Ford Coppola's movies as a production assistant. So there has been some opportunity that I've seen that people have gained so much insight. And I have to ask you, because you grew up with this small town feel, but you went to this
Mhm.
big town, New
Oh,
York City. You went to New York and essentially tried to start your Broadway career and even break into a variety of different acting roles. Why is it so hard, in your opinion, to try to get into some of these areas? I think it's always interesting because there's only so much that is available and there's a large pool of people. I know that's always a factor, but is there something that you feel that somebody needs to have to be able to get into the movies, to get into these TV series that are usually produced as pilots and then ordered for production for seasons? What do you think it takes, in your opinion?
I'm still trying to figure it out because there's the artistic side of acting, and then there's the business end of it. And I haven't got quite very good at the business part yet, But if all I had to do was go in the audition room and do my monologue and say thank you and leave, then I'd probably be famous already. But then they ask you questions and I'm like, I don't know. Blah, blah, blah. I just choke up. So you have to practice your craft of acting every day or singing if you're a singer. You have to take all the classes and continue your education as much as you can. Work with an acting coach if you can, like a private acting coach.
Mhm.
Find really good material for your auditions. Like find a really great monologue and a really great song and practice it and practice it and practice it until you can't do any more and it's as good as it's going to get.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there's so much competition in New York City for people trying to be actors. There's thousands of people who look just like you who are all auditioning for the same part. So you have to be really good. You have to give a really great performance to even have that little bit of an edge over the other people. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
yes, it's hard and there's a lot of rejection involved, but I just learned to get used to it after a while. It used to get me down and get me discouraged in the beginning of my career, but now it's just like, okay, on to the next one.
And I think that is something that you get used to. There's a lot of no's before all the yeses come. And I know I've learned that myself over the last few years, even with operating a business, is that you get a lot of different opinions about what you should be doing, what you should not be doing. But at the end of the day, you have control of it, but you also have to realize that there are many other people that are competing for the same thing. What keeps you motivated? Although there's all these rejections, what has kept you going knowing that you've had these opportunities like you've mentioned earlier, The Good Wife, Blue Bloods, all those different types of shows? What has kept you motivated to keep pursuing those?
Well, I think it's just what I was meant to be and what I was meant to do. What is it that the French say, my raison d'etre, my reason to live? Well, my nephew is my number one reason to live now, but it's what makes me happy. And it's what gives me joy and gives me a reason to get up every morning. If I wasn't doing something, if I didn't have my YouTube show, the Aunt Nae Nae Show, which we'll get to later, then I'd just be, like my nephew says, sitting around like a bump on a log.
Mhm.
He thinks that's what I do all day anyway.
Well, we even were talking about that before. I don't think that you're a bump on the log, or I don't think anybody would view you that way, Megan, because you have been consistently trying. And that's part of it is that we have to just keep trying, even when we get all the no's, even when we get the yeses, we still keep trying because we know that we can keep moving in that direction. Before I even move on to your show, I'm kind of curious for anybody that is out there that might have had interest in, say, a theater career. I've had my hand in improv theater, Megan. That's one thing I didn't tell you before we started. I did try a couple levels at a local improv group. I didn't really feel like it was a good fit for me, but I also haven't been practicing theater for so many years like you. So you've had this opportunity to grow your skill set, grow your knowledge, grow the
Well,
technique. Yeah.
I'm not that great at improv either. I do better with scripted material.
There's all kinds of different theater as well, and I'm just giving one example out of multitude of others, knowing that you are specializing in different types for that matter. What would you say to someone that might be interested in pursuing a career, even if it is late stage? Maybe they just had this motivation to jump into it. What would be a piece of advice that, knowing what you've been through, what you have endured, what would be something that you would want to share with my listeners that might be helpful for them as they're considering it?
First of all, one of the first things you need to do if you want to get into an acting career is get into the theater in your community, do community theater, or if you're a student, see if there's some plays at your school that you could be in. Even if you're a college student, most colleges, you don't have to be a theater major to audition for the plays at the college.
That is one regret that I had when I went to school. There were so many different plays. I should have tried at least one, and I never did that. So I'm kicking myself even all these years later. Yeah.
After that, you need to build up your resume by doing community theater or plays in your schools if you're a student. The main piece of advice, just in general, for your whole career is don't give up,
Mm.
because the people who get discouraged and give up too soon are the ones who never make it in the end. Remember, Morgan Freeman didn't get his first major acting role until he was in his 50s.
Mm.
Lucille Ball didn't start her own TV show, I Love Lucy, until she was 40 years old.
Mm.
I'm 39, and I just started my own TV show last year. It's
You
never too late, and don't give up, but it may take a long time to get to where you want to get to. But if you don't give up and you keep working at it and working hard, doing the work every day, there's a chance that you might just make it one day. But if you give up, then you've got no chance of making it. So don't quit.
It's that persistence factor. That's essentially what it is. And you're right. I always have remembered telling different people at different stages of their lives, well, you put so much effort into it. Don't give up now because there has been a lot of work that you've created and it has been contributing. And sometimes we need that reminder for sure. And I have to remind you that you've done a lot of great work. And I know that you even said like early on, like, well, I did that. You did do that though. That's awesome stuff. I'm super excited for you. So,
I have been working at it for a long time.
yeah, I would never be able to do some of the things that you've even said to me today. So, I appreciate you sharing that with my listeners and even myself. I do want to get to your TV show. So, in 2023, you created your own YouTube TV show called the Aunt Nae Nae Show. And I'm wondering if you could tell our audience a little bit about the concept of the show, what you actually do, everything about it. Because I did watch a few of these before I came on, as I said to you, and even for my listeners. But it was really engaging for me how you've done different types of content for that. So, why don't you share a little bit of what it's all about?
Okay, well, I started my own YouTube show for kids. It's called the Aunt Nae Nae Show. I started it in March of last year. It was inspired by my 7-year-old nephew who calls me Aunt Nae Nae because when he was little, when he was a baby, he couldn't say Megan. So he was like, Aunt Nae Nae. And he still calls me that to this day, even though he's 7 years old. Sometimes he accidentally calls me Megan, and it's a little disappointing.
He's
Anyway,
growing up. He shouldn't do
yeah.
that.
Anyway, so I decided to make it a character and make a show about Aunt Nae Nae and call it the Aunt Nae Nae Show. And it's a variety show for kids ages 8 years old and younger. Some kids around like 10 years old might appreciate a few of the episodes. 5 to 8 is the target audience, I think. I tell stories, I tell jokes, I sing songs, there's educational content. I just did one last week where I taught a short piano lesson, made a video of me teaching piano. And sometimes I go like exploring different places. Like we had one show that was Aunt Nae Nae goes to Central Park or Aunt Nae Nae goes to the beach. Anyway, it's a great show and you should check it out. You should tell your kids to watch it.
Absolutely. And I even said to you, even before the show, that a lot of content that I even see on Netflix, Amazon, things of that nature, there are sections obviously for kids, but to have quality educational content for kids is something that I think is lacking. And we need to have more of, especially with the ways in which that is an important stage of development in our lives. I've had doulas on the show, Megan, where we even have talked about the fact that those first few months, even after birth and after all those years, it's so important to have that support. And I think having content like yours, it helps to feed as one of those inputs that we can have. I have to ask, and I'm thinking about as I hear this, what was the shift from going from being extra on TV shows, movies to wanting to move into kid content, educational content, jokes, things of that nature? You
Oh.
mentioned about your nephew, but I was wondering if there's something more to it.
Well, when I lived in New York City for 6 years and I was just doing the background extra work as my survival job to make money. Although it was really fun and it was easy work because you got paid to do acting and like walk back and forth in the background all day.
Yeah.
In 2018, I decided to move back home to Alabama for a while, partly because of financial reasons and also because my acting career was not going anywhere at the time. And I was just getting burnout with my acting career and with going to auditions and just New York and everything else and relationships, and my finances were low. So I decided to move back to Alabama for a while and just to take care of myself and to take care of my mental health and just to rest for a while and take a break from everything. And then the pandemic happened and I stayed in Alabama longer. In 2017, my nephew was born.
Mhm.
And if it weren't for him, I wouldn't be Aunt Nae Nae because he's my only niece or nephew right now. 2 years ago, I decided to get my acting career started back up again. And I got an agent that I'm working with here in Alabama. And then I decided to make the Aunt Nae Nae Show in March of last year, just because I thought, well, I know all these silly songs from Girl Scout camp. Why don't I just sing one of those songs and make a YouTube video out of it and see what happens and put it on YouTube? And they got, a modest amount of views. And I thought, well, this is fun. It gives me something to do. I'll just keep doing it because I know a lot of silly songs from camp. And then my 20th video that I made got over 54,000 views
Wow.
all of a sudden. I don't know how.
It's that
So then I
algorithm.
thought, well, I better step up my game. So then I found two guys who are now my producers. I have two producers who are helping me make the future of the Aunt Nae Nae Show even bigger and better than it already has been. When I first started out, I was just using my iPad with my mom or dad holding the camera as my camera.
As your camera person, essentially. Yeah.
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 Now I've got a person who can do all the editing for me. I've got my other producer helps find special guest stars to be on my show. Just like you're interviewing me, I interview guests on the Aunt Nae Nae Show now too. The first one of those episodes is called Aunt Nae Nae Learns About the Circus with a special guest star named Bobby Hedgeland Taylor. He is a circus performer and trapeze artist, and he used to work with elephants.
I just want to say for my listeners, obviously we're recording this in the past, so that episode will be available on Megan's YouTube channel, which
Yes,
we'll
it'll be
reference a little
available
bit
after
later.
August
Yeah.
24th.
Yeah. So as you are wrapping up with Christmas and everything, I hope that you take
Oh,
a
yeah,
listen to
Christmas.
Megan's episode from a few months
Mhm.
ago with that. I do want to circle back on something that you said. It sounded like to me when you had this breakthrough of 50,000 views on one of your videos that you did with the Aunt Nae Nae Show, that was sort of a turning point to realize maybe this has some potential. You brought on some other
Mhm.
people. What did it mean for you to know that you were starting to maybe make a positive direction to be able to bring in these other people? Did that help you a bit? Walk us through what that mindset
Yeah.
was that was changing for you.
It definitely gave me motivation and hope to keep going. It made me feel like I was actually doing something legitimate that could actually become something big one day. And I'll go ahead and say that one of the main reasons I chose to do a kids show instead of a show for grown-ups was because I want to make kids happy. Like that's my mission in life. Even if I make just one kid happy, then I'll have succeeded. I started doing the Aunt Nae Nae Show just to have something to entertain my nephew. But I said to myself in the beginning, if nobody else watches it, even if he's the only one that ever watches it, I'll keep doing it just for him. But he doesn't watch it anymore. He's like, I'm too old for that.
Well, I think that we all get a little saucy, especially when we get older. Oh, well, that's a little bit something that is way beyond my age group at this point. But even then, I think your heart is there for those reasons that, like you said, even if you could just reach one person, I think that makes such a big difference. And part of even what I do, Megan, I find that when I work with people that are trying to figure out what's the best way to move forward, like that's almost identifying a little bit of what they've been through, even as a kid, what they've been through. So, like I said earlier to you, what you're doing is creating some meaningful things that can make a positive difference at a very young age, especially if they're able to see that for the future. Which, as we get towards the end of our time, I do want to ask you this last question about the show and about you in general, where this is taking you, because I think that, like you said, we can have these ups and downs in our career. And obviously, being an actress, even if you're an actor, it doesn't matter. That is the sort of industry that you're entering into that kind of has those ebbs and flows. What does it mean for you to do the Aunt Nae Nae Show? And what do you think it will mean for you in the future to continue doing it? Meaning, what do you see yourself going towards by doing this? Do you think that you're going to be able to get back and maybe do something really meaningful, even more so than you're doing now in your actress career? What's your trajectory? I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are.
Oh, well, I want to be able to reach more kids with the Aunt Nae Nae Show. So I hope that your show can help me partly to get more subscribers.
I will ask my listeners
My
to do that for sure. Yes.
The big dream is to be like the Mr. Rogers Show and have a show on PBS. And I want to be able to inspire kids and inspire them to find their talents and find their gifts and to go out into society and share their gifts with the world. I want to provide some entertainment that is wholesome and substantive, that has substance, meaning it's educational a little bit, that parents will feel good about their kids watching. And that's how the Mr. Rogers Show and like Sesame Street, I just want to be like Mr. Rogers.
There's nothing wrong with that, though. And Mr. Rogers, by the way, grew up in my home state where this podcast is, and on the other side of Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh. So we even have a Fred Rogers Day to honor him up here. Our governor did that a number of years ago. I think that having those kind of people that influence and surround ourselves, regardless of where their background is, where their origin, creed, whatever, we should all be accepting of all those factors. It's just about the essence of what is it for our hearts to be able to manifest that. And I think you have the right heart to manifest all those things, Megan. So I really encourage you to keep doing that. That is some awesome work that you're doing. I want to give you the last few minutes here to tell our listeners how they can access the Aunt Nae Nae Show. Maybe they want to contact you for some actress work. Maybe this is a great opportunity to pitch yourself for that. I think that it would be a great opportunity if you also shared your social media, if they want to connect with you on that regard. But I'm going to give you the last few minutes to do all that.
You can find the Aunt Nae Nae Show on my YouTube channel. The name of my YouTube channel is my name, Megan Claire Murphy, and the number 2. So that's Megan Claire Murphy 2. And if you want to get in touch with me, you can comment on one of my YouTube videos, or you can also message me on my Facebook account. I'm on Facebook under the name Megan Claire Murphy, and I don't have Instagram, anything else yet. So that's it. Watch the Aunt Nae Nae Show, and Merry Christmas, and Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year.
All those things, right? I have to say to wrap this up, Megan, sometimes we have these ebbs and flows in our life. And I was telling you a little bit about my ebbs and flows before we started. And I know that there's a lot of things that we can easily dive into to make this even longer. But I think what's fascinating about a story of an actress, especially with all the things that I've seen, like you mentioned, even some of the people, or even earlier today, Morgan Freeman, Lucille Ball, all those people, even others that have been not named, they all have unique identifiers as to what made them successful, what puts their mark on the map. And it's just about keeping that consistency, keep on trying. And I love that you're trying all these things, even doing your own YouTube show, which I really do mean this too. And I know you said it too. I'm saying it for all intents and purposes for my listeners. Check this out, especially if you have kids. I think they're going to enjoy the quality of the content that is there. So, Megan, for all those reasons and for what you're doing to keep on pursuing your dreams, thanks for being on Speaking from the Heart today. Thanks for sharing a little bit of your story. Thanks for inspiring us to continue being on that path.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you. It was my pleasure.
I want to thank Megan again so much for being part of the show, sharing her story of how she's gotten to where she is today. And I wish her much success in the Aunt Nae Nae Show, being able to continuously educate others. But I think what's really interesting about today's episode is that you can sing and talk and chew gum all at the same time. And I think that her multiversity talents, which is essentially what I'm alluding to in Megan's case, is quite a talent. Thinking of the Big Apple, places where people would go to showcase their talent, their abilities, their knowledge, their skills, especially on Broadway, is an exciting topic in itself. I think that where dreams happen, where those expectations might occur, even if you feel a little bit let down because you're not chosen, you can still do so many different things, so many different types of opportunities. You can be famous for a variety of different ways in which you can still have opportunities to work in your craft, your ability, your knowledge, to be able to share so much to so many different types of people. But I think even as I reflect on this final interview of 2024, that it's about not only the crafting, the acting, the singing that helps us create opportunities to succeed, but it's about that practice. And practice makes perfect. Rejection still happens even after you keep practicing. And it's okay. I have been rejected so many different times this year, and it's okay that I have been. I'm learning from each rejection, trying to be better, figuring out what it is that I've done wrong so that I can be better. It's no different than auditioning for a play. It's no different than trying to be cast for a musical. And I get it. It can be very demoralizing. It can be very hard, especially when you're trying to make ends meet, when you count on that as your main financial line of support. But what does it mean for us to have these infinite number of possibilities, even when rejection happens, that we get back on the right track? How is it that we continuously practice our skills? Well, I think Megan gave us a suggestion today. Go practice theater. Go practice opportunities. Just show up. And it's funny because even as I talk about this, I did improv theater shortly before I started this business. I did a level 1 and a level 2 class in the Harrisburg area. If you ever visit, you can always check out the Harrisburg Improv Group. They're in downtown Harrisburg. They have a great opportunity for those that are interested, taking in-person classes, learning about basic fundamentals of improv theater, which is a whole art in itself. And not to disrespect traditional theater or even Broadway, which has its own set of different things that they're looking for. And I obviously encourage you, if you want to check something like that out, Megan might be a great resource. But even then, practicing these opportunities, getting ready to create your own show, it's about not giving up. It's about that persistence. And I think we really heard that theme consistently in today's interview. If there's anything that really stood out more than anything else, it's Megan's tenacity to keep pressing along, even when things seem bleak or glum for that matter. She kept on doing it. She kept on seeing the potential. And I think that potential is essentially what really paid off in her story, and it pays off in all of our stories. The best concepts that we can find, even from our family, being able to find ways in which they are rooting us on from the background and helping us get to that next step, that next plateau that we need to reach. That is something that even when we try to pivot, even when we try to figure out what it is that's going on, even with things that have happened all the time, trying to figure out what it is that is happening because it's a pattern that we can't break. It's something that we have to figure out and shift in a different direction, what it is that we need to do. And we need to figure that out fast because if we don't, we're going to lose so much. That's why, even with that period of time, even if you have to move back, even if you have to take a step back so that you can reset, there is nothing wrong with doing that. And if society tells you any differently, trust me on this, they are lying to you. They're not telling you the whole story. One big break can make all the difference for us to make a significant impact in our lives. And I think of all the time, and I've even mentioned him on this show, Gary Logner, a gentleman that was one of my first coaches when I started this business, giving me some very pointed feedback, helping me to see what it is that I need to do to keep on growing, to keep on leading, to keep on moving forward. Even then, I have to keep on continuously seeking impact, keep on continuously seeking feedback so that I can make the impact in a variety of ways. When we create these opportunities to expand ourselves, to make even kids happy, even in Megan's show, it's about teaching skills. It's about showing others compassion and joy. It's about even showing what it means to live a life that's full of great opportunities that are existing. It means that we have to feel inspired, that we have to become the best versions of ourselves by growing and leading others. I think that's why Megan's story is so interesting to me, and maybe even unique to you as we wrap up this year, because she demonstrates to all of us that regardless of what happens, regardless of what challenges might occur in our lives, even if it is from setbacks with our work or other sort of life challenges, we will always find a way to use our skills. 2024 for me has certainly shown me that I can use my skills in a very positive way. It's not very easy for me to even talk about this because I get very emotional about the fact that if it was not for the things that I've been through, the suicide attempt that I had, I would not be here behind this mic today talking to you about what it has meant for me to keep on leading the charge, to keep on seeing what is there in the great expanse of life. What we're able to do in our lives is really dictated by a series of choices. Those choices are not only shaped by society, by culture, by our parents, by our friends, or other significant others, but also about the things and ways in which we react to. But even then, those reactions might change as we get older. What we might not like at one point in our lives might be challenged in a whole completely different way. And that's okay. Being able to see that we have this opportunity of a lifetime to practice our skills, to see what's developing inside of ourselves, to be able to challenge the status quo, means that we have to see in our lives what it is that we can give to others. And we're always continuously evaluating that. No business goes stagnant. No business stays on one consistent pattern. And if they ever want to stay in business, they have to evolve. You think of Sears and Kmart as some of the prime examples, even Blockbuster for that matter, which for many of my United States friends, and even maybe some of you that travel to the United States or have even seen these types of stores in your own backyard, you know that if they had never changed, if they would have adopted to the ever-evolving landscape, I think we would see that some of them would still be in business today. But it's okay that they're not. It doesn't mean that it's the end of the world for those businesses because they have taken a new shape, a whole other type of perspective that we would have never thought possible. We see them in Target. We see them in Walmarts. We see them in all kinds of other new stores that are coming up that always challenge and saturate the market, and they dominate based on consumer preferences. What is the things that we want to do? If you think about it, children's shows are no different. We all have likes and interests of a variety of different things that we want to learn for our children. We want to show them. We want them to go for, whether that's being a scientist, an astronaut, or an engineer. And I think of all the tests that we take, even going through grade school, of what it is that we want to have as the career moving forward. But are we stuck on that one path? Absolutely not. I immediately challenge that because even me, somebody that thought would be a lawyer, certainly changed their tune when they saw that the opportunity of being able to do something else completely different would help me become the best version of who I am. Working in plastic bottle factories, being able to work behind a desk serving customers that were renting rooms, even cleaning toilets, janitor work that was menial in nature, all got me to where I'm at now. on the precipice of quitting a job in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to work on my real passion, helping others to become the best versions of themselves and motivating others across many different platforms. Your story, Megan's story, and many other stories all have different ways in which we come from. They are all interconnected, though. And at the end of the day, how we're inspired, how we're able to fall back, how we are supported, each have different paths. It's almost a multiverse, if you will, if you want to use that Marvel reference in this episode. But I have to say, for all the things that we learn about ourselves to grow and be inspired, Megan's story, I think, is a nice reminder as we close out the year 2024 that nothing is impossible. Nothing can be out of reach. We just have to have that desire. We have to have that cheerleader. We have to have that exposure for us to see that there is a brand new light, a brand new day in which we're able to showcase what it means to live in humanity. Humanity makes mistakes and also celebrates success. So today, I want you, as you reflect on this show and you reflect on all the things that we've taught you, that it's okay to take a different path. It's okay to think a little bit differently. It's okay to showcase what it is that you have to share to the world. Because this is about uniqueness. This is about individuality, but blending it into a team-oriented fashion because we can't do it alone. And hey, even when you think about it all, I want you to know that no matter what kind of possibilities that might exist yet in your life, you have a place. And that place, whether you have to create it yourself or not, will always be there for you, ready to take it on with both arms wide open. Thanks for listening to episode number 180 of Speaking from the Heart, and I look forward to hearing from your heart very soon.
Thanks for listening. For more information about our podcast and future shows, search for Speaking from the Heart to subscribe and be notified wherever you listen to your podcasts. Visit us at www.yourspeakingvoice.biz for more information about potential services that can help you create the best version of yourself. See you next time.